All right, as we begin to talk about Rosa Parks here, and again, I just want to reiterate that these are discussion points. I don't know that you need to go into all the detail that I'm going into right now in the hook portion, just because what you're trying to do is spark their mind to think about what is appropriate action and what is inappropriate action. You might even let them come to their own conclusions on this, and even if those conclusions are wrong, just to get them to thinking about it, because then you can go back at the end of the lesson and say, all right, now which one of these, based on what we've learned today, would be an act of civil disobedience that is called for by Scripture, and which ones are not. But anyway, the Rosa Parks example. If you don't know anything about Rosa Parks, I would think all of us learned about that in American history and the civil rights movement. But anyway, she refused to move on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, whenever she was asked to move by the white bus driver back to the section that was designated for black people. And so she refused to do that, and it really sparked a huge thing in our country over race. And in this one, how can her actions be justified as a good act of civil disobedience? Well, really, we have to get down into the lesson to understand this better, because the question raises, how do we balance between where Jesus says if somebody hits you on the cheek, you turn the other cheek, or if somebody asks you to go a mile with them, you go two. How do we balance suffering and then standing up for what's right? And you have to look at it and take the selfishness out of it. You have to say, is this person just doing this to get back at the person they are being oppressed by, or are they doing it in such a way that they actually care about the person that is doing them harm? And we'll look at that more in a Matthew passage as we go down through the lesson. But in Rosa Parks' case, what you have here is you have a lady riding a bus, and then you have a whole group of people that are being oppressed. African Americans in that day and age, as we all know, were an oppressed people, and they were oppressed by the majority of people who were white. And so racism at its root is a hatred and a bitterness towards towards another racial group of people. And to just allow racism to go on is not caring about the person who is showing the hatred, because hatred, what it does is it destroys the individual. So if nothing is ever done about it, then is the person that has the capability to do something, are they really loving that other person? Well, I don't think so. It's just like in the just a moment. It's just like in the case of if somebody is openly in sin and we do nothing about it, then are we really loving that person? Because we're not acting in their best interest if we continue to let that go on. So in this case, not only was Rosa Parks standing up against something that was harmful to her people, because they were being oppressed and mistreated, but she was also showing love for a large majority of people that were affected by this hatred and bitterness towards the other group of people. So in this case, I believe that that's very much justified, because not only was she standing up against injustice, but she would be helping stop this hatred which is sin, boiling up in this whole other group of people. So I hope that makes sense. Maybe the farther we go down in this, that'll be a little bit better case. But again, I'm not sure that we need to just openly say in this instance, this is right, this is wrong, this is right. Let them come to their own conclusion on that, and then as we come through the lesson, hopefully they'll be able to see which ones are right and which ones are not. So we ultimately, in this lesson, we don't want to give the impression that disobedience is the norm. We want to give the impression that disobedience is the rare case, the extreme case, whenever there is no other option, and we can see that God, we are obeying God in opposition to man, not I say that we are obeying God whenever He is being disobedient toward God. Okay, hope that makes more sense. If man is being obedient to God, we don't have the right to be disobedient toward the authority over us. But whenever that authority is running contrary to what God would see as right and good and just, then in the extreme case, we have the responsibility to be disobedient there. So anyway, well, hopefully the farther we go through this, the more we'll understand. Thanks.